Welcome to Animation Unlocked, where we unlock the world of the artists and creators behind the TV shows and movies you love. I'm your host, Talia Ellis, and today we've keyed into Kat Messing, an independent stop-motion filmmaker who previously worked as a stop-motion animator at Apartment D and an assistant editor at Titmouse Animation. She's going to be sharing with us her award-winning short, Vermin Beings. Thank you so much for meeting with us today, Kat.
Stoked to be here. Thank you for having me, Talia.
For those of us who aren't familiar, who haven't seen the short yet, tell us a little bit about Vermin Beings as a piece.
Sure. Vermin Beings is a 60-second film about two little rat people humans who live in a convenience store and they are competing for resources, and they reflect the feral side of humanity in a comic way. I've
seen the short. I absolutely love it. I think it's so hilarious and so clever. Was this a short that you made on your own, or did you have a team helping you?
It was probably 95% I made, I wrote, I animated, I edited, I provided some of the voice for, I did the compositing for, all of that sort of stuff. The executive level creative decisions were yours truly. But I had a dear friend of mine, Kal-El Bogdanov, one of the other voices of one of the little human people. I had my gaffer, Alex Lizotte, who helped me with the lighting, because that is not my bag, baby. I had my production designer, Tiffany Liu, who is an incredible miniaturist. She's done lots of stuff with Apartment D as well. Also, Hans Vogeli is another stop-motion animator buddy who has a 3D printer and was absolutely answered the call when I sent him a text asking if he could print me out several hundred naked little rat men. Yeah, he's a real one.
So you have 100 little naked rat men that he printed out?
Really pretty garish. He printed out sheets of flesh-colored little guys. You have to poke them out. But I used replacement style animation for this short, and so there are 4 main poses that are used throughout the entire thing for both characters. And so it's just a combination of switching out one figure for another that gives them the sense of movement. They're very fragile, and so little arms and limbs snap off all the time. So he gave me just a bunch of backup little rat people.
How long did it take you to shoot this 60-second short?
Start to finish, this took me it took me a week and then another couple of days to really polish the post-production side of it after the fact.
Where did you get this idea from?
So I follow a lot of eco-activists online, and a common sentiment that I have heard, especially with regard to large-scale corporate polluting and unchecked environmental sources of disaster, man-made, is the idea of humans are a disease on the planet. And so I just sort of extrapolated on that idea a little bit. Disease, plague rat, what would be a carrier of a disease? What if there was this story of little rat people? If humans were actually the vermin, the pests on the planet, what would that look like?
Who would you say is an inspiration for you as a stop-motion animator?
Years ago, a film came out called A Town Called Panic. They used these little mini figures, like these little plastic toys, to tell this wackadoo story. It was hilarious, and one of the few movies that I've seen where I truly don't know what's going to happen second to second. And so I wanted to utilize that with this own story. More globally, I'm more inspired by stop motion as a medium as opposed to any individual filmmaker, just because it is so unique. I think stop motion captures much more effectively than CG animation, that quality that you would have in the old 2D days, if you can tell who the artist is by how they're drawing. Models would be ever so slightly off. You could tell a MILF call from a Frank Thomas type of a drawing. And I think stop motion, the ways that people can utilize textures and DIY, accessible to anybody, arts and crafts, make your sets out of pizza boxes, make your blooming flowers out of dog toys. There's a certain ingenuity that is really hard, I think, to standardized. I just love that about it.
What challenges did you come across when you were producing Vermin Beings?
I mean, time. The eternal time management is trying to figure out how to get the story done with the time that I have allotted myself in a way that does the story justice. That's the big one. And then in terms of particular quirks of this production, that hot dog roller gave me a bit of a trouble. Getting them to roll evenly, like as if they were a hot dog roller, was not entirely successful. If I could do that whole thing again, I would also have where he gets flattened by the hot dog roller and he becomes a little piece of paper person. I was like a woman possessed. I was just grabbing at whatever I had within arm's reach. And so I flattened out a little clay guy, and then to keep it stable, to keep it from falling apart, I X-Actoed out a back of blue masking tape. If I could do it again, I would put it on probably skin tone construction paper, because that's one of the few things that sort of stands out to me. Like that's the one mistake that jumps out at me the most, where I'm like, he shouldn't be blue there.
You know, I think that the blue just emphasizes the lack of oxygen that was pushed out of his lungs. Like, that's how I took it, you know?
It's a metaphor for, the human condition restricting ourselves to a myopic pursuit of the next shiny thing. Yep.
Yes. So as somebody who has, you're talking about all the ingenuity that you had, the blue masking tape to kind of stick this guy together. You're doing it in your closet. You had mentioned, I think before our interview, that it took place in your closet. Is that right?
Home studio, but yes, more or less it is my home studio happens to be located in a walk-in closet, but let's not get it twisted, okay? We're nothing but professional here.
How do you find working at home differs from working for a larger company?
Well, I don't know. I kind of break it into 3 different tiers of work. I haven't worked for a mega studio, but I've worked for a big enough studio that has infrastructure and bureaucracy and regular paychecks and high-profile projects and cutting your teeth kind of jobs, respectable quote jobs. You're always making something for somebody else. On a smaller studio like Apartment D, a more independent studio, smaller projects, less regular opportunities for work, shorter term projects, but there's a real sense of camaraderie there. People wear more hats there. You could learn across instead of just vertically. You can move out of your lane. And then when you're working for yourself, I mean, there's a little bit of a divide there on top of that, because I'm not working, I'm losing money when I'm making my own stuff. That's not a complaint, it's just a statement of fact that if you are, the benefit of creating for yourself is that you are beholden to no one but yourself. You get to make it exactly the way that you want it, and nobody is going to question or fight you about it. But that means that you have to wear all of the hats. As I have matured in my career, as I have gained more experience, I made a deliberate decision to cleave my professional ambition off of my creative fulfillment. And so when I stopped making shorts to prove something, to prove how good I am at animation or how capable I am to be hired to working at these larger studios, that's also coincidentally when they started winning awards. So weird how that sort of works out. It's almost like you should do your best to separate your finances from your creative soul-searching expression and passion for the craft. There's so much pressure on young artists and any artist in general that if you don't follow your dreams, you become a compromiser and you settle for less than. Most of the time that's packaged as following your dreams is making money at your dreams. And I think that's a bit of a cultural fib that we've been fed. Try to distance yourself from the idea that you're only good if you can make money at it, or if you work for a pedigree name brand studio. That's just not true. And it seems hard to believe when you don't have any other reference points, but that's what I've learned.
I think that's such a grounding response because you're right. A lot of us in the art field of any variety are told that you're not really doing it unless you are working for this studio, this studio, this studio. And there is a sense of clout that you have to kind of be like, no, I've worked for them. I know, like, and it really can censor or depress your voice as an artist because you have to be put into an environment where you're creating a product and you lose a sense of that creativity. Going back a little bit to Vermin Beings here, I was going to make a parallel between what we were talking about the indomitable human spirit of like trying and failing and trying and failing. And I was like, yeah, like your Vermin Beings, they try a lot to survive. And then I was like, think about the ending of that film. What are you saying? Which... By the way, I do want to say how much I love the ending of your film. I do not want to spoil it. I really want the people out there, our listeners, our watchers, to view it for itself. But I thought your ending was absolutely amazing.
Thank you very much. I guess if I can soften it a little bit and say that it's not about trying and failing and trying and failing and trying and failing and persevering. It's about being thoughtful. If you are blindly, myopically pursuing the next biggest, shinier thing for the wrong reasons, for letting your greedy impulses get the better of you, then it's more of a cautionary tale than anything else.
Going back into a little bit of the nitty-gritty for Vermin Beings, what were the programs that you were using there? And do you mind letting us know the camera that you were using? I'm just curious about how you went about creating it on a technical level.
Dragon frame is golden standard. I don't know how I could do it without it. I'm using a Canon T3i, I believe.
Outside of being an independent stop-motion filmmaker and an editor for studios, what do you like to do that's outside of the animation industry? What are your hobbies?
I do street fighting for fun. But honestly, though, I have an orange belt in Krav Maga, and I'm really excited to be back at it after taking a year off where I tore my ACL by throwing an unfortunate round kick to an opponent who caught it. I clear the mental noise by hulking out on the regular, and and it's great. Outside of Krav Maga, I volunteer for an organization called Food Forward. They're a wonderful organization that sends out troops of volunteers to harvest extra produce from farmers markets and from backyard fruit trees if there are private homeowners who have fruit trees. And then they bring them back to the organization, which dispenses it to local food relief organizations all throughout Los Angeles and all the way up to the Ventura counties.
What's the next steps, if there are any, for Vermin Beings?
I have a list of festivals that I'm deciding whether or not to submit to. I love the Vermin Beings. I think that there's absolutely literal legs for them to develop into maybe like a future miniseries, or I could see them as like Adult Swim bumper type of things. A lot of people have come up to me and been like, we want to see more of these guys. So I absolutely would be up for developing them and pitching them around. My priority this year is shifting a little bit to a different project that I have that has been near and dear to my heart for a long time.
How can our audience support Vermin Beings?
Just watch it, share it with people, tell them about it, talk about stop motion, talk about the value of independent artists and what you can come up with when you're wily and weird enough. That's mostly what I would say, is just share it, show it to people.
And you mentioned in a little bit earlier that this year you're shifting your focus to a new project that's near and dear to your heart. Is that a project that you're ready to share and talk a little bit about?
Indeed. I'm very grateful to have been accepted to a local indie filmmakers collective called Silver Lake Shorts. Through sponsorship with a bunch of other animation studios, they've provided a grant and a mentorship program for indie filmmakers to produce a short film that is between 1 and 5 minutes long over the course of the calendar year of 2025. So I am deep in pre-production for that right now. I've almost got an animatic cut together, and I'm working on a story about a bunch of cryptids So for anybody who doesn't know, cryptids are basically folklore monsters. Famous cryptids are Loch Ness Monster, Chupacabra, Mothman, Sasquatch, all those guys. And my focus is more of the obscure, specifically non-humanoid creature cryptids. So the story is focused on Volpe the Volpertinger, who is like a variant of a jackalope of sorts, a fantastical chimera creature. He is led and runs through a forest where he encounters a series of more ferocious and intimidating other territorial cryptids. We're very much underway. Here's the puppet that I've built so far. So I just happen to have him here. Here he is. So he is, so this is our hero.
We will absolutely have links to that picture in our description for anybody listening on the podcast. When are you expected to finish this?
Let's say January 2026 because it's going to debut at Silver Lake Shorts. So their whole deal is that they have arranged this fellowship program as a way of demonstrating to artists, studios, people in general, what independent filmmakers are capable of when they have the resources they need and no other creative influences other than their own voice.
What is this project called?
This is called Volpe of the Woods.
Fantastic. Congratulations on your acceptance into that program. That sounds like an incredible boon to you.
Truly a dream come true. I am so excited, and I fully intend to do it the best that I can.
Kat, thank you so much for being here today.
Pleasure is all mine, Talia. Thank you so much. And thank your listeners for tuning in.
If you want to see more from Kat Messing, check out her socials below and click the link to watch Vermin Beings. You have to check it out. It's amazing. And be on the lookout for Volpe of the Woods coming out January 2026. That's all for now. See you next time on Animation Unlocked.